4 years ago, a movement was born, a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And look how far we've come. 4 years ago, we inherited a military hollowed out by devastating budget cuts, an economy struggling to break out of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression. Terrorism was on the rise around the world, and we witnessed a steady assault on our most cherished values, the freedom of religion and the right to life. But in our first 3 years, what a difference the decision that Wisconsin made. We rebuilt our military. We restored the arsenal of democracy. And we are once again giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard, and our veterans the resources and the support that they deserve every single day. We revived our economy by cutting taxes across the board, rolling back federal red tape, unleashing American energy, and fighting for free and fair trade. We appointed judges to uphold all of our God-given liberties, including the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And I couldn't be more proud to be vice president to a president who has stood without apology for the sanctity of human life and for the freedom of religion of every American of every faith. And beyond all of that, throughout all of the last 3.5 years, this president and this administration have stood with the men and women of law enforcement, and we will stand with them every day. President Trump and I know that the men and women who serve in law enforcement are the best of us. They put their lives on the line every single day. They literally count our lives as more important than their own. And they deserve the respect of every American. Now, to be clear, any incident involving the police use of force will always be thoroughly investigated, but there is no excuse for the rioting and looting that we have seen in Kenosha and in cities across the country. And this violence against civilians, against property, and against law enforcement must stop, and it must stop now. Now, President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Burning businesses is not free speech. And those who do so will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's why President Trump took action just a few days ago. We sent 200 federal law enforcement officers into Kenosha. Working with the National Guard and local law enforcement, we quelled the violence. Under this president, I promise you, we will have law and order in every city in this country for every American of every race and creed and color. So help us God. Now, for months, all Joe Biden talked about was peaceful protesters as the American people watch businesses and communities in our major cities burn. Last week, Joe Biden, after 3 months of silence, spoke out against violence in every form it takes. But right after he said that, he criticized law enforcement. And Joe Biden never condemned Antifa. He never called out his campaign staff or his running mate for raising money to bail out violent criminals. And he never called on Democrat mayors to get their cities under control. I think the people here in Wisconsin know. Joe Biden would double down on the policies that have literally led to violence in our major American cities. Joe Biden says America is systemically racist and that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities. When asked whether he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden replied, yes, absolutely. But under President Donald Trump, I promise you, We will always stand with those who serve on the thin blue line of law enforcement. We're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever. Now, President Trump and I know what you all in Wisconsin know. We don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement and standing with our African American neighbors and families to improve the quality of their lives, to improve public safety, create more jobs and better schools. I mean, from the first day of this administration, we've done both. And I promise you, we're going to keep supporting law enforcement and keep supporting our African American neighbors and all of the minorities in every community in this city every day from here to come. So in 3 short years, with the support of the people of Wisconsin, we rebuilt our military, we revived our economy, we stood for our liberties and for law and order. And the result? I can tell you, having traveled to more than 30 countries as your vice president, America is respected in the world again. At home, our God-given liberties are more secure today. And in our first 3 years, there's only 3 ways you can describe those years. It was jobs, 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 right here in Wisconsin and all across America. It's true. I mean, with less taxes, less regulation, more American energy, and better trade deals, businesses large and small across this country created more than 7 million good-paying jobs in just 3 years. And on this Labor Day, it's great to remember that wages were rising. In those first 3 years, wages were rising at their fastest pace in the last decade. And we couldn't be more proud that in those first 3 years, wages rose most rapidly for hard-working, blue-collar Americans. The forgotten men and women of America are forgotten no more. And under this president's policies, manufacturing has come roaring back. You know, when Joe Biden was vice president, America lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. And the last president actually said that those jobs were never coming back. You remember? It was the summer 4 years ago, 2016. The president back then wondered aloud how you could ever bring manufacturing back to the heartland. He said, quote, "What magic wand do you have?" Well, we didn't need a magic wand. We just needed President Donald Trump in the White House. 500,000 manufacturing jobs in just 3 years. Beyond that, the lowest unemployment rate ever recorded for African Americans and Hispanic Americans. At the end of our first 3 years, more Americans were working than ever before. And let me just say, with him present here today, none of that would have been possible without the strong and principled support of Senator Ron Johnson. Wisconsin, would you join me? Get on your feet and show how much you appreciate a man that's been fighting for Wisconsin values and fighting for Wisconsin jobs. Thank you, Senator Johnson. With our strong allies in the Congress like your senator, we created the greatest economy in the world in 3 short years. We made America great again. And then the coronavirus struck from China. The people of Wisconsin deserve to know that before the first case of coronavirus spread from person to person within the United States, President Trump took the unprecedented step of suspending all travel from China before the month of January was out. And I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that action alone saved untold American lives. And it bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. true. At the President's direction, we marshaled the full resources of the federal government and the American economy. We partnered with private industry, reinvent testing. When I took over the task force in late February, we'd done no more than 8,000 tests total nationwide for the coronavirus. Today, with American ingenuity and high relief, we perform more than 800,000 coronavirus tests a day. We work with private industry to arrange for the production and the delivery of billions of supplies of personal protective equipment to our great doctors and nurses and hospitals all across America. We saw to the delivery of those supplies at the point of the need in one city after another, where the impact was the greatest, where the challenge was the greatest. And I will tell you, here in Wisconsin, all across America, every American should be grateful for our doctors, our nurses, and our health care workers and our first responders who have risen to the challenge in this hour of our trial. Now, our hearts go out to all the families who've lost loved ones during the course of this pandemic, including more than 1,000 families here in Wisconsin. I want to say to each and every one of them, you've always been in our hearts, and you'll remain in our prayers. But we're going to continue to move forward, continue to develop medicines each and every day that are saving lives across the country. More therapeutics are becoming available each and every day. And I promise you, we're not going to rest. We're not going to rest until we have a safe and effective coronavirus vaccine for the American people, and we put this virus in the past. It's amazing to think with Operation Warp Speed, the President initiated a project where, believe it or not, we have several vaccines that are already in the final stages of clinical trials. But we're not waiting until they're approved to produce the vaccines. At the President's direction, we're actually manufacturing vaccines even as we speak, so that the moment that the FDA says that we have a safe and effective coronavirus vaccine, we'll have tens of millions of doses available for the American people. Now, I have to tell you, Joe Biden said not long ago that no miracle is coming. But here in America, we're in the miracle business, and we're going to have a safe and effective vaccine for the coronavirus before the end of this year. So we're slowing the spread. We're protecting the vulnerable. And we're saving lives. And each of us has a role to play. But in the midst of this pandemic, our president also worked with leaders in both parties in Congress, and with Senator Johnson in particular, to secure support for American families and for American businesses. It's amazing to think we were able to secure nearly $4 trillion in support to American families and enterprises. And the Paycheck Protection Program alone is estimated to have saved some 50 million American jobs. But I promise you, Wisconsin, we're going to continue to put the health of America first. And because of the strong foundation that President Trump poured in those first 3 years, and because of the unprecedented aid that we secured for families and businesses after losing 22 million jobs at the height of this pandemic, we've already seen more than 10.6 Americans go back to work already. The American comeback has begun. In the last 4 months alone, we've literally seen half of the Americans that lost their jobs go back to work. And that includes 200,000 Americans right here in the state of Wisconsin. So we're opening up America again. And we're opening up America's schools. Just last week, we spoke to educators around the country, leaders of colleges and universities around America, to make sure they had the support and the guidance to be able to safely reopen their schools. People all across the country are working to safely reopen our K-12 schools. And I'm proud to report to you that school teacher I've been married to for 35 years is already back in the classroom teaching art at her elementary school. But I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you particularly to the Dairyland employees who leaned into this effort to get our schools back open. On the plane on the way here, I learned that a lot of you volunteered at an area school to build plexiglass barriers. You removed furniture to make our classrooms safe for our kids. Thank you for being there for our kids and our teachers and our schools. Great job. Great job, Dairyland. So we've gone through a time of testing, but we're coming through it together. The hardworking people of Wisconsin deserve to know. As we go through this time of testing, we're soon coming to a time for choosing. And the choice has never been more clear. I mean, it's amazing to think that in the middle of a global pandemic, Joe Biden wants to raise taxes by $4 trillion. And President Trump, for our part, not only cut taxes for working families and businesses large and small, but as we speak, we're letting the American people keep more of what they earn. And I promise you, we're going to keep fighting for tax relief for working Americans every day. Where President Trump signed more laws cutting federal red tape than any president in American history, Joe Biden wants to bury the American economy under an avalanche of red tape, like his own version of the Green New Deal. And here at Dairyland Power, you deserve to know that Joe Biden and the radical left want to crush American energy and American energy jobs. They want to pass their climate change agenda and cap and trade that would raise the cost of electricity for nearly every household and business in Wisconsin. President Trump, for his part, unleashed American energy and all of the above energy strategy. And as we stand here today, the United States is now a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70 years. We're energy independent. And when it comes to free and fair trade here in the heartland, we all remember NAFTA. Over in the Hoosier State, after NAFTA was signed into law back in 1995, we saw entire communities shuttered. And literally in the years since, 60,000 factories closed across the United States, and many of those jobs moved south of the border and overseas. But I saw this president work to keep the promises he'd made to the people of Wisconsin. He said we could do better than NAFTA. We could fight for the kind of free and fair trade that put American jobs and American workers first. He drove a hard bargain. And I'm here to tell you, the USMCA is a win for Wisconsin workers and a win for Wisconsin farmers. Under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, now Canada is also ending its unfair treatment of our dairy farmers. So important here in Wisconsin. The USMCA is actually expected to increase our dairy exports by more than $300 million in the next year. That's a win for Wisconsin. The experts also tell us the USMCA overall will create about 600,000 new jobs just right out of the gate, including 50,000 manufacturing jobs. You know, I heard that Joe Biden's running mate is in Milwaukee today. But dairy farmers in Wisconsin deserve to know that Senator Kamala Harris is one of only 10 senators to vote against the USMCA. She said it didn't go far enough on climate change. And here at Dairyland Power, you deserve to know. Senator Harris put their radical environmental agenda ahead of Wisconsin dairy and ahead of Wisconsin power. But under President Donald Trump, we will always put Wisconsin farmers, Wisconsin businesses, and Wisconsin families first. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, NAFTA is yesterday and the USMCA is here to stay. But beyond trade with our neighbors, This president also stood strong with regard to China from day one. President Trump made it clear that the era of economic surrender is over. When we took office, literally half of our international trade deficit was with China. And President Trump acted. We imposed strong tariffs on China. We took action to end steel dumping that was hollowing out our steel industry and manufacturing in this country. And every single day we've continued to stand firm, demanding that China open up their markets, respect American private property, and play by the international rules. Joe Biden, he's been a cheerleader for communist China. He actually wants to repeal all the tariffs that are leveling the playing field for American workers. And recently he actually criticized President Trump for suspending all travel to China at the outset of the pandemic. So I'll make you a promise. Whatever the other side wants to say or do, President Donald Trump and I are going to keep standing strong for American workers and American jobs until China comes to the table, lowers trade barriers, respects American properties, and levels the playing field. Because when the playing field is level, American workers can compete and win against any workers anywhere in the world. And finally, on this Labor Day, as we think about labor, we think about the cost of labor. It's one of the reasons why President Trump has made record investments in border security. As we stand here today, this president's already overseen the construction of more than 300 miles of a border wall on our southern border, and we've been enforcing our immigration laws all across America. I mean, the truth is that illegal immigration drives wages down. People know that. One of the reasons people of Wisconsin ought to be concerned, Joe Biden is for open borders, sanctuary cities, free health care for illegal immigrants that will continue to bring low-cost labor into our cities and our towns, undermining the wages of American workers. And in addition to enforcing our immigration laws and standing firm for the conviction that a nation without borders is not a nation, President Trump has also launched what we call the Pledge to America's Workers. We're encouraging businesses in every field to expand training opportunities for American workers, and it's already led to 16 million training and apprentice opportunities for American workers all across the country. That's why we call that future ready. So we've stood strong. We stood strong for a safer, more prosperous America. We've stood firm to make sure that those that are meeting the needs of families that are challenged in the midst of this pandemic have the support and the resources to have the care that every one of us would want their family member to have. We stood up for our values and stood up for American families. And on this Labor Day, American workers can be confident you have a champion in President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump, I can tell you firsthand, having served with him every day over the last 3.5 years, he's the real deal. The man who says what he means what he says. Never backs down. And I can tell you he's never stopped fighting for the working people of Wisconsin. But for all that we accomplished in those first 3 years, for all we've done to see our nation through this time as America's begun to stand up again, go back to work and back to school, that's just what President Trump calls a good start. And I promise you that we're never going to stop fighting for working people all across Wisconsin and all across America until we bring this state and this nation back bigger and better than ever before. So thank you for the warm reception today. And I'm very thankful it's not that warm today. It's a beautiful day in Wisconsin. Good to be with all of you. More importantly, thank you for what all of the hardworking families gathered here and those that might be looking on do for this country every day. And President Trump and I believe that all honest work is honorable. That it's really been the people who make things, who grow things, who work with their hands, with the sweat of their brow, in the factory, in the field, that have made this country what it is today. I mean, it's been the hard work and the strength of working Americans, men and women like all of you here, people who believe in faith, and family, and patriotism, and hard work, people who believe in the American dream, that have always and will always be the backbone of this country. So on this Labor Day 2020, I encourage you to keep pressing on. Keep showing the strength and the faith and the resilience that working people have always shown in the life of this nation. And keep standing with us. And I promise you, we'll keep standing with you. And finally, have faith. Have faith in the strength and resilience of the American people and the ability of hardworking Americans to see our nation through this challenging time and come all the way back and then some. And have faith that even in these challenging times, those ancient words that Americans have clung to throughout the generations are still true today. They're above the mantel in our home. There they've been for more than 20 years. From the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11. Have faith, as he said, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. The future belongs to America and to hard-working Americans. And our hope is in him, in this one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. So with faith in all of you and faith in him, I leave here today with renewed confidence. We're going to make Wisconsin and America stronger and more prosperous than ever before. And with President Donald Trump in the White House, with great leaders like Senator Ron Johnson serving Wisconsin, and maybe future leaders like Derek Van Orden finding his way into public life. With your continued support and with God's help, on this Labor Day, I just know we're going to make America great again. Again. Thank you all very much. God bless you. God bless Wisconsin, and God bless America. Happy Labor Day.
Vice President Mike Pence wrapping up his remarks in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Good afternoon. I'm Joe Sales from the Right Side Broadcasting Studio in Auburn, Alabama. We're waiting President Trump's news conference today on Labor Day. Happy Labor Day to you. Hope you're getting some much-needed rest. We are going to be busy this week. No rest for us, and we're okay with that. This is why we got in business, is to do stuff like this for campaign season. We have 2 Trump rallies. We're going to call them rallies now because that's what they are. This week, tomorrow, we're going to be in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. In fact, Liz Willis and Mike Dinwiddie just touched down in Charlotte and are en route to Winston-Salem, and then we are headed to Michigan, to the Saginaw area for a rally on Thursday, and these are just going to keep coming faster than you can imagine. I'm serious. They're going to go from 2 to 3 a week to 2 to 3 per day by the time we get to October. So I hope you're ready for the campaigning. It's about to heat up. 57 days to save America. Are you ready? Because I know we are. We need your help. If you want to support us and help us get to these things, it costs a lot of money, so we need your help. rsbnetwork.com/donate's the best way to do it. We are viewer supported. We rely on you. Let's save America together. We have 57 days. Let's make them count. President Trump's news conference coming up in just a few seconds here at the White House. We'll see you back here in a little bit after that. God bless. Have a great Labor Day.
I don't think that's it. No, Anna. I thought it's like Waco. No, Anna thought the other day was like. Yeah, I think this is like the Bane and I. The difference? I don't even know who these two boys are. This is like two-faced. Oh my god. Somebody should. I don't know why Anna Price like around like the grade. I've been like walking around the mall. Yeah, before you I know. Have you ever? Oh, okay. Yeah. I think that's what my parents. Yeah, when I was talking about it. Yes. Almost like a badge of honor. You look like a musician and you have it from that. It's like, you know what I mean? They take it away and I'm for sure. Like, I don't know. So it's a good thing.
Oh, I was expected dinner with today. Because he played golf today, Saturday and Sunday. So today I thought he will go for dinner. Yeah.
Some of these, not this one. I know these guys have like a micro something. Oh, some of the glass. I think Carolyn's got something. I think she likes the micro stuff. So, I asked her, I guess she goes, no, I have one number. Maybe it's like a 50 or something. It's got a mode. You know, like a switch.
Yeah.
It's on Labor Day, but that's what you need. Pay them double. Sit out.
All right. Looks like fresh paint.
It's hot, but not the bottom. Right. The bottom is like it's been skateboarded.
Yeah, really.
It's like at night.
Right. They're in practice with the kickball here. The boom boom boom.
Let's stick the ones in there so we can put the frame for the wall. Put it on over shoulders.
I think we could make more money with the home inspector work.
For here? For Denver's place. You know what, I was going to get my license for me. Really? I'm still going to get to have it. I have like 5, 6, 7 hours. I know the other guy, so I'm only doing it. It's a nice piece. Some of those big ones upstairs with the black one. Or not that murder one that's got machetes.
I see you all the time now at the White House spaghetti. They no longer send something when you do it?
Not on the weekends.
Oh, weekend?
And most of the weekend we put up this one. Literally, weekend and holiday.
And it's easy weekend. You don't need to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like yesterday was the first time I had to come back
1 hour.
because I was worried, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know how it is. If I didn't,
Yeah.
He was going to have something. I was over here already. It was just literally by the press club editing the car.
Half of my friends,
Again, yeah, like you said,
and most of the time
they
they're
don't
all
complain.
and then
Hey,
I have
we're going to have this. I don't think it's
and it's like,
a couple hours later.
oh, well. That was
But it ends up for the rest of the week.
Sandy
Right. I mean, other than RNC, that's the only thing that really works.
Is that on there? Yeah, it's okay. It's like right
You've
by
been
the
over there? Or just...
Okay, so while we have a few minutes here before the news conference begins, we expect it in less than 5 minutes. Just wanted to remind everybody again, those of you just joining us, that campaigning is about to go into beast mode. Okay, we are going to 2 locations this week. We'll be in Winston-Salem, North Carolina tomorrow, actually, and then on Thursday we'll be in Saginaw, Michigan, the Freeland area in Michigan. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you're subscribed to us. We are very close to 500,000 subscribers. That's amazing. We appreciate all of you. So make sure you're subscribed because we have a lot of campaigning. And every time President Trump goes live, we are always live and most of the time first on scene. You'll get to see things you won't see on mainstream media. So you'll want to subscribe to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We need you and we appreciate you. So subscribe. I appreciate you and have a great Labor Day. Enjoy the news conference coming up.
Sometimes, yeah, when we do the holidays, the guy's there because
But these guys would be happy to hear the president. Ladies and gentlemen, the president.
you're right. You know, they're not. Yeah,
What would it sound like?
the guy doesn't know where it is. The guy was using sand over there. Like at the top, he was sitting by the guy to fix it. Chips there. Chips there this week. Okay. He's going to go next week. Okay. Yeah.
So for whole week?
Good. Good. When they fingerprint you, it's the craziest thing. Good. They like your fingerprint.
I've been asked to clarify the 500,000 subscribers is referring to YouTube. So we have 500,000 YouTube subscribers. So we are usually live on YouTube. For those watching on Facebook and other platforms, we're live usually on YouTube earlier than we are on Facebook. So if you'd like to get some of the early action on these streams, you can go over to our YouTube channel. Just search for RSBN or Right Side Broadcasting and subscribe to us on YouTube. And you can choose whether you want to get notifications or not. As soon as we go live, you'll be notified. You're supposed to be anyway. If you're not a follower on Facebook, just go and search for Right Side Broadcasting and like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at RSB Network.
Every time you state department test, they do it again. I was asking, it didn't change. Why you do it again?
That's fine. So yeah, I mean, but it's good here because literally you walk out with it. Yeah, and it's so much easier to putting it.
Absolutely. And it's the most helpful when they lock streets around.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't need to say,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. And it's just, and I Well, the thing is, like I thought I had enough. Mine was set to expire 2 years after we got it. Like, and mine was like August 5th or something. Oh, you got
They say they will stop counting.
Oh, okay. Well, she goes, hold on. She's like, oh, you have, you're fine. I'll let you know. Which is because they have to okay it. Because they're trying to weed out.
Yeah, before it's been here expiration date. Now it's electronic expiration date. So you always need to check when
You know the expiration. Like I put it in my phone. I went and asked her a month before. She goes, oh, we'll renew. That's all it took because they were rewriting everything. As long as they know the base of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would have one before. You had
Look, that's the problem. In the last 50 years we suffered. In that so many fucking years.
everybody. I do this because he's the radio cooler. He like keeps it on.
TCM either?
Well, let's take what's her name last year.
Yeah.
Mary.
We might have two.
And some people like the big thing to look at their achievement. That's just fun. He lost his he'd come in here every weekend. And at night, he would stand here just to get a swipe in when he was counting. Why is he so robbing to come in here? Just to get the yeah. When they, in the beginning, when everybody was
He already started speaking.
where is he? That was good. Right there. Let's get to speak.
Where is it?
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States. States.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Happy Labor Day. That was really a very special time I had speaking to some of the labor union heads and other people. They're very happy with the way things are going. As you probably see, the numbers are terrific. So we called some people, wished them a very happy Labor Day, and they told us how they're doing, and we really celebrate the American worker. We are in the midst of the fastest economic recovery in U.S. history, so we have a lot to be thankful for, including this really beautiful day. So I thought we'd do this outside as opposed to in your more normal place. The United States experienced the smallest contraction of any major Western nation. You probably know that. You look around and see how we're doing compared to every other nation, and our rise is spectacular, and we're rebounding much more quickly from the pandemic. The U.S. economy added 1.4 million jobs last month. We've added a record-setting 10.6 million jobs since May, 10.6 million jobs since May. That's a record that is not even close. Second place is a long ways away. In July, the Congressional Budget Office was projecting unemployment over 10.5% through the end of 2020. So they thought 2020, and maybe it would be a lot longer than that. Some projections where you'd go through the entire year, and that includes a lot of months in the following year, 2021. And instead, the unemployment rate plunged, really to the surprise of many, all the way down to 8.4% in August, and that's the second largest single-month decline on record, and we have the first. We have both of them. So we have the two number one declines, decline meaning positive, not negative. We're currently witnessing the fastest labor market recovery from an economic crisis in history, world history. By contrast, Biden presided over the worst, the weakest, and the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. It was a long, slow slog, and it was a very small on growth and very small on every other factor that you need. It was the weakest recovery. Under my leadership, next year will be the greatest economic year in the history of our country, I project. And some people are starting to agree. We have a V shape. It's probably a super V. And you see what's going on with the stock market, where it's, in certain cases, already setting records. The NASDAQ has set 17 records already. And this is as we're hopefully rounding the final turn in the pandemic. First, we'll end the pandemic under Operation Warp Speed. We've pioneered groundbreaking therapies, reducing the fatality rate 85% since April. You don't hear that from the press very often. They don't like to talk about that. So the fatality rate, 85%. Think of that, since April. The United States has experienced among the lowest case fatality rates of any major country in the world. And we are an absolute leader in every way. Under my leadership, we'll produce a vaccine in record time. Biden and his very liberal running mate, the most liberal person in Congress, by the way, is not a competent person, in my opinion, would destroy this country and would destroy this economy, should immediately apologize for the reckless anti-vaccine rhetoric that they are talking right now, talking about endangering lives, and it undermines science. And what's happening is all of a sudden you'll have this incredible vaccine, and because of that fake rhetoric, it's a political rhetoric, that's all it is, just for politics, because now they see we've done an incredible job, and in speed like nobody's ever seen before. This could have taken 2 or 3 years, and instead it's going to be done in a very short period of time. Could even have it during the month of October. So contrary to all of the lies, the vaccine, that they're politicalized, they'll say anything. And it's so dangerous for our country, what they say. But the vaccine will be very safe and very effective, and it'll be delivered very soon. You could have a very big surprise coming up. I'm sure you'll be very happy, but the people will be happy. The people of the world will be happy. Next, we'll return to unprecedented prosperity through our pro-American policies. We'll pass new tax cuts to boost take-home pay. We're going to be cutting taxes very substantially. We get it back through growth. We had tremendous growth until we got hit with the China virus. We'll continue our historic regulatory reduction campaign. We've, as you know, in 3.5 years, we've cut more regulations than any other administration, no matter how long, no matter what period of time you're talking about. We'll enact fair trade deals, and we're working on 7 major fair trade deals right now. And when I say fair, fair to our country, because our country was ripped off by every nation. Friend, foe, didn't matter. Every nation was ripping us off at a level that it's just unbelievable, to be honest. We're going to be expanding opportunity zones, and we will keep that going. It's been a tremendous program. I want to thank Senator Scott, South Carolina, for coming up with that whole concept, because he came up and I liked it right away, and it's really turned out to be a tremendous thing, especially for African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We'll continue to unleash American energy. We're number 1 in the world, and we're totally energy independent right now. And in 2021, we'll create 10 million jobs at least in the first 10 months. Joe Biden, the radical socialist Democrats, would immediately collapse the economy. If they got in, they would collapse it. You'll have a crash the likes of which you've never seen before. Your stocks, your 401ks. Remember, it's the people that own these massive listed companies. A lot of people, rich people and not so rich people and middle income people, and those stocks will crash like you've never seen before. The Biden plan begins with a $4 trillion tax hike, and that will end everything, including growth. There won't be growth, there'll be total contraction. Biden's also pledged to demolish the U.S. energy industry and implement the same policies causing blackouts in California. He wants to have things lit up with wind. He'll have to talk to China, Russia, India, and lots of other countries because they're not doing that. And if they're not doing it, it puts us at a tremendous economic disadvantage, and it doesn't work. You take a look at the blackouts in California. It's really rather amazing what's going on there. They've tried to go, and that's just with a small portion going that route. That doesn't work, and it can't fire up our big plants. If we're going to have this great industry that we've created, can't fire up our big plants. Biden's plan for the China virus is to shut down the entire U.S. economy. He's going to totally rely on somebody to walk up. Yes, sir, it's time to shut it down. He'd be laying off tens of millions of workers and causing countless deaths from suicide, substance abuse, depression, heart disease, and other very serious illnesses. Because when you do a shutdown, there's a problem on the other side. It's not just from the virus. You have a big problem with suicides, with losing your jobs, with all sorts of things. You just take a look. Depression is a massive problem, and what happens is they turn to substance abuse, alcohol, drugs. So we can't do that. And then we'd have to give up all the gains that I've been talking about over the last 3 months. What we have done is incredible. We're setting records all over the world. No matter where you go, nobody has done what we've been able to do. So we're setting records in jobs, we're setting records in numbers, and you're going to see some very big numbers. Third quarter numbers are coming out right before a very special day, November 3rd. So you have the numbers coming out, and they're, I think, going to be fantastic. I think they're going to be fantastic. The best numbers of all, if somebody doesn't come along and raise taxes, double, triple, quadruple your taxes, will be the numbers from next year. But you're going to have a good third quarter number coming out. And I think it's going to be hard for even the media to disparage that number. Biden wants to surrender our country to the virus. He wants to surrender our families to the violent left-wing mob. And he wants to surrender our jobs to China, our jobs and our economic well-being. I've taken in billions and billions of dollars from China. No other president's done what I've done. I've given much of it to the farmers. I've given it to farmers and manufacturers, but I've given most of it to the U.S. Treasury. Nobody's done that. We haven't taken in 10 cents from China ever. They targeted our farmers, and I targeted them. And I gave $28 billion to our farmers. Our farmers wouldn't be existent right now. Right now, they're very happy. In fact, they're setting records on purchases. China is purchasing more corn than they've ever done. Record purchase of corn and soybeans, beef, because they know I'm not happy with them. They know I'm not happy at all. And frankly, I don't want to set the world necessarily to thinking too much about it right now, but there's been no country anywhere at any time that's ripped us off like China has. We lose billions and billions of dollars for years and years, decades. We've lost billions and billions and billions of dollars by dealing with China. We get nothing from China. They get nothing other than loss, other than giving our money, and they take that money and they build their military, and you see they're building up a powerful military. And it's very lucky that I've been building ours up, because otherwise we'd be dwarfed right now by China. It would be a terrible thing, a terrible thing. We're way ahead on the nuclear front. We've upgraded our nuclear. Hope to God we never have to use it. But we would be in a position that we are not in right now. But China is spending the money we give them to build up their military. So when you mention the word decouple, it's an interesting word. So we lose billions of dollars, and if we didn't do business with them, we wouldn't lose billions of dollars. It's called decoupling, so you'll start thinking about it. You'll start thinking. They take our money and they spend it on building airplanes and building ships and building rockets and missiles. And Biden has been just a pawn for them. He's been so easy. They dream about Biden. There was a report today that they hope that Joe Biden becomes president. If Joe Biden becomes president, China will own the United States, and every other country will be smiling also. They'll be smiling. When reports come out that certain countries don't really like me too much, that's not because of my personality, although it could be that also, frankly. It's because of the fact that I've been very tough on countries that have been ripping us off for so many years. If you look at NATO, with the exception of 8 countries, we're one of them. Every country is way behind. They're delinquent, especially Germany, in paying their NATO bills. That means we end up paying it, and we're not doing it. I told them, we're not doing it. And they've increased their spending now, $130 billion, going up to $400 billion a year. It's all because of me. Then you hear the country doesn't like me. I mean, I can understand that, because President Obama and other presidents, in all fairness, would go in there and they'd make a speech and they'd leave. I went in there, I looked, and I said, this is unfair. We're paying for NATO. We're paying for NATO, almost all of it. So they rip us off in the military, and then they rip us off with the European Union on trade. And Biden doesn't have a clue. You know he doesn't have a clue. Everybody knows he doesn't have a clue. In prime time, he wasn't good. And now it's not prime time. He spent 47 years sending American jobs to China, to Mexico, and to other countries while collecting millions of dollars in campaign and super PAC contributions from global corporations that got rich by making American workers poor. His son, where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? I call him Where's Hunter. Walked away with $1.5 billion to manage, even though he never did that before. He walked away with a fortune from Ukraine, from China, and from other countries. Between his son and his brother, you ought to read the statements, and the press doesn't pick that up. If I ever did that, it would be hell, even worse than it's been, okay? Even worse than it's been. What he's done is so incredible. I won't give them the $1 billion, he says. I won't give them unless they get rid of that prosecutor. And then voila, they got rid of the prosecutor. And the press doesn't even want to talk about it. You talk about quid pro quo. With me, there was none. With him, he's right on tape, and you don't want to cover it. You should be ashamed of yourselves. The press should be ashamed of themselves. But Biden shipped away our jobs, threw open our borders, and sent our youth to fight in these crazy, endless wars. And it's one of the reasons the military, I'm not saying the military is in love with me, the soldiers are. The top people in the Pentagon probably aren't, because they want to do nothing but fight wars so that all of those wonderful companies that make the bombs and make the planes and make everything else stay happy. But we're getting out of the endless wars. You know how we're doing. We defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate, 100%. When I came in, it was a mess. It was all over. They have it in a certain color, all ISIS. A year later, I said, where is it? It's all gone, sir. Because of you, it's all gone. Because of my philosophy, but all gone. And I said, that's good. Let's bring our soldiers back home. Some people don't like to come home. Some people like to continue to spend money. One cold-hearted globalist betrayal after another, and that's what it was. Biden supported NAFTA. He supported China's entry into the World Trade Organization. 2 disasters, the most disastrous trade deals in history, both of them. I can't tell you which was worse. They were both terrible. And as you know, I ended it, and I ended NAFTA. And we're looking at the World Trade Organization. They've become much better, I will say that. World Health I got out of, because we're spending $500 million. China was spending $38 million, and China controlled it. But World Trade, we're looking at it. They've been very nice to us lately, I will say that, amazingly. We never used to win anything at the World Trade. We'd lose every case. Now, all of a sudden, we're winning a lot of cases. We just won $7 billion as a case. And they're talking to us much differently than they used to. Because if they don't shape up, we're going to ship out, that's all. We're not treated fairly. China is treated as a developing nation. Developing nation. We're treated as a nation that's fully developed. We're not fully developed as far as I'm concerned. When you look around at Portland and you see what these Democrats are doing to our cities, take a look at what's happening in New York and Chicago, where you have Democrat-run cities and mayors that are running and governors that are running states so badly, and Mayor's running cities so badly, it's very sad to look at it. It's Democrat run. Every one of them that I see. I guess we could probably find one or two that aren't, but so far I haven't been able to. If you look at Biden, he supported TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster, would have destroyed our Paris Climate Accord that he'll go back into because, it sounds wonderful. It's a disaster for this country. They've basically taken away your wealth, the Paris Climate Accord. And the other countries don't have to adhere to it. China doesn't kick in until 2030. They don't have to do anything until 2030. We had very high standards. We would have had it closed under some scenarios. 25% of our businesses in order to qualify under this ridiculous Paris Climate Accord. Sounds good. It was very bad, very expensive. The New York Times has just published an entire story on Biden's China sellouts, which is amazing for the New York Times. I appreciate that. In 2001, Biden said the United States welcomes the emergence of a prosperous, integrated China on the global stage because we expect this is going to be a China that plays by the rules. They didn't play by the rules. They didn't play by the rules. The World Trade Organization, one of the reasons it's so bad is that China didn't play by the rules. We did, but their rules were easier because they're considered a developing nation. So they had a much lower standard. But even that, they didn't play by the rules. That's when they became a rocket ship. They were flatlined for years and years and years. Then they joined the World Trade Organization. And frankly, they cheated. Okay, they cheated, I'll say it. What difference is it? I feel much differently. I feel I've made a great trade deal with China, great. And they're buying. You know why they're buying? Because they know I'm not happy. That's why they're buying. And I talk about it because today is Labor Day. And it's a good time to talk about when we're being ripped off by countries, but nobody's even close to China. Biden cheered China's rise as a great power because great powers adhere to international norms in the areas of non-proliferation, human rights, and trade. Well, they didn't. They took advantage of stupid people. Stupid people. And Biden's a stupid person. You know that. You're not going to write it, but you know that. The cost of Biden's economic treachery was 60,000 shuttered American factories, and I hear this morning the real number is probably 70,000. 70,000 shuttered American factories, and he's talking about how wonderful it is with China. No, China's been very bad, on top of which we had the China plague sent to us, and other viruses, nothing near this serious, but the swine. We had other viruses sent in over the years that came from China. I wonder why. If Biden wins, China wins because China will own this country. If Biden wins, China will own this country. And hopefully you're not going to be able to find that out. It's the most important election in our history, right now. Most important election in our history. Under my administration, we will make America into the manufacturing superpower of the world, and we'll end our reliance on China once and for all. Whether it's decoupling or putting in massive tariffs like I've been doing already, we're going to end our reliance on China because we can't rely on China. And I don't want them building a military like they're building right now. They're using our money to build it. We'll manufacture our critical medical supplies in the United States. We'll create Made in America tax credits and bring our jobs back from China to the United States, and we'll impose tariffs on companies that desert America to create jobs in China and other countries. If they can't do it here, then let them pay a big tax to build it someplace else and send it into our country. We'll prohibit federal contracts from companies that outsource to China, and we'll hold China accountable for allowing the virus to spread around the world. Now you can understand why China would much rather see Sleepy Joe than Donald Trump. But as long as I'm president, we will never waver in our undying loyalty to the American worker and to our country as a whole. So, happy Labor Day, everybody. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, President. The issue of what happened when you were in France continues to be a story.
You're going to have to take that off, please. Just, you can take it off. How many feet are you away?
I'll speak a lot louder.
Well, if you don't take it off, you're very muffled. So if you would take it off, it would be a lot easier.
I'll just speak a lot louder. Is that better?
It's better, yeah. It's better.
Mr. President, some people are having a hard time believing your denial of the Atlantic story because of what you said about John McCain in the past. Do you understand that? And have you asked John
No, I don't understand.
And have you asked John Kelly to refute that story?
No, I don't understand it at all, no, because I've always been on the opposite side of John McCain. John McCain liked wars. I will be a better warrior than anybody, but when we fight a war, we're going to win them. And frankly, I was never a fan of John McCain. You know that. It's been very obvious. But I had to approve his entire funeral. I wanted him to get, he deserved a first class, it all was approved by me. We sent Air Force One to pick up the casket, a lot of things. But no, I was never a fan of John McCain because he wanted the endless wars. And I didn't. I thought that the way the vets were taken care of, our great vets, was not good, not appropriate. And of course, he took the fake dirty dossier and gave it over to the FBI. So this is not somebody I'm not supposed to say, what a wonderful guy. So, you know what? I lived with him. He lived with me, but we had different philosophies. I think my philosophy is right. I think it's turned out to be right. But I wasn't a fan, but I respect people, and I respect a lot of people. That doesn't mean I necessarily have to agree with them, and I didn't agree with him on a lot of things. The story is a hoax, written by a guy who's got a tremendously bad history. The magazine itself, which I don't read, but I hear it's just totally anti-Trump. He's a big Obama person. He's a big Clinton person. And he made up the story. It's a totally made-up story. In fact, I was very happy to see Zach Fuentes came out and said, now I think that's number 15. And these are people that were there. That's the 15th person, General Kellogg. Everybody that was there knew what happened. And so I was happy to see that Zach came out and said it's not true. It just came out. And it's a disgrace. Who would say a thing like that? Only an animal would say a thing like that. There's nobody that has more respect for not only our military, but for people that gave their lives in the military. There's nobody, and I think John Kelly knows that. I think he would know that. I think he knows that from me. But Zach Fuentes says, worked for John. And I think they both know that. But Zach came out, as you know, today or yesterday, last night, and said very strongly that he didn't hear anything like that. Even John Bolton came out and said that was untrue. Now, what was true is that we had the worst weather. I think it was as bad a rain as I've just about ever seen. And it was a fog. You literally couldn't see. I walked out. I didn't need somebody to tell me. I walked out. I said, there's no way we can take helicopters in this. I understand helicopters very well. And they said, no, sir, that's been canceled. They would have had to go, Secret Service, I have the whole list. They would have had to go through a very, very busy section during the day of Paris. They would have had to go through the city. The Paris police were asking us, please don't do it, because they're not ready. When you do that, you need a lot of time. They take days and days and days to prepare for that. I wanted to do it very badly. I was willing to sit in the car for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I didn't care. It didn't matter. And I had nothing else to do. I went there for that. I had nothing else to do. It was ended because of the terrible weather, and nobody was prepared to go through, in terms of Paris, the police, the military, and the Secret Service. And they came out very strongly and said, sir, we can't allow you to make this trip. If I wanted to, sir, we can't allow you from a safety standpoint. It was a phony story, just like the dirty dossier, the fake dirty dossier, just like the Russia collusion, just like all of the other phony stories. And there'll be more phony stories. But I do appreciate Zach coming out. But Zach now is the 15th person that's denied it. Zach now, I think, also talked about the weather aspect of it, and he's probably the 14th or 15th person that blamed it on weather. So that's enough of that. Yes, please.
Thank you for holding the briefing.
Thank you.
We're seeing judges, most recently in Detroit, limit police ability to use non-lethal force. My first question would be, should the police be allowed to use non-lethal force to quell the violence in their city?
We're talking about where non-lethal force?
Right, so in the riot, most recently.
The riots?
Yeah.
Well, I think what's happened is the toughness. These are Democrat-run cities all, and there's no retribution. They stand there, they throw things at the people that are supposed to be protecting something, and nothing happens. They throw rocks, they throw cans of soup, they throw lots of hard objects, and rarely does anything happen. But I've told, when we have the federal in there, as you know, I told the U.S. Marshals to go get the man who killed another man, and they know who it was, and you have to arrest him. You have to arrest him. After 2.5 days, they didn't arrest him. The U.S. Marshals went in, and it ended up being a gunfight, and the man was killed. But this is a man that had a bad record, and there's a man that killed a man in the street. I mean, I witnessed it. Most people witnessed it. And the U.S. Marshals went in. They weren't playing games. They can't play games. If somebody is breaking the law, there's got to be a form of retribution. I watch so often when I watch some of the areas that we're talking about. Now we have Rochester. That's, again, Democrat governor, Democrat mayor, all Democrats, every one of them. And it always will be. I was with the governor of Texas. He looked at me and said, I can't imagine how they allowed this to happen. And, you know, it's different. It's different. I could talk about other governors saying the same thing. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Follow up on that. We're also hearing reports of groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter traveling around the country, leaving their home cities to go riot and protest in other cities where they're living with families. Do we expect to see prosecution and charges in the Department of Justice for those traveling to that purpose?
So we have now over 1,000 people, federal, in jail. We're prosecuting many people. A big thing was when I signed the law putting people in jail if you knock down monuments. That was 3 months ago. There hasn't been a federal monument knocked down in 3 months or even thought about. I don't think they've even thought about it. So that's had a very big impact. Very big impact. But yeah, we're going around, and the nice part is you people see those people up there, they take nice pictures of everybody, so we don't even have to bother. We can use the news photos. We had a photo right over there of Andrew Jackson, the monument. He was getting ready, and this guy was a big, brave guy, and he was up like this, and he was showing off to all his friends, and he got arrested. So did a lot of other people get arrested, and I would say we have the ultimate proof. Now, in that case, we got there before they ripped down the statue of Andrew Jackson, which is so beautiful, which is right over there. But they never got it. But right after that, I signed an order saying you go to prison for 10 years. And as soon as I signed that order, that was the end of the statues coming down. But they have other ideas. They've got plenty of ideas. They're not at want for ideas. Please, go ahead.
Mr. Spun, David Spun from Fox News. Mr. President, thank you for taking my question. Sir, you talked a lot about the economy and touted the economy. 3 weeks ago in Bedminster, I asked you specifically why you have not called Democratic leadership to the White House to meet with them. If they don't want to meet, it's on them. A lot of people are criticizing you. I cover you on the weekends and stuff.
I don't think they have.
Why have you not met with them in person? I mean, we're in September. There's no deal. There's no hope of a deal. We're 2 months out from the election.
Don't say there's no hope. Why do you say there's no hope? What do you know?
What can you say?
What do you know?
It doesn't seem like.
And let me just tell you, I know my customers. That's what I do. I know Pelosi. I know Schumer very well. They don't want to make a deal because they think it's good for politics if they don't make a deal. This has nothing to do with anything other than you have to know who you're dealing with. I do. These are people that I don't have a lot of respect. I don't think they have a lot of respect for the American people. And I know who I'm dealing with. And I don't need to meet with them to be turned down. They don't want to make a deal because they know that's good for the economy. And if they make a deal that's good for the economy, and therefore it's good for me for the election in November 3rd, and therefore they're not going to make a deal. Now, if we gave the store away, if we bailed out all of their Democrat-run cities, where we give them $1 trillion, which is the kind of money they want $1 trillion to bail out badly run Democrat cities and states, whether it's New York or Illinois or others, they want to bail them out. And we're saying, well, we're not going to pay that kind of a price in order to bail the city. We'll do something to help cities, but that's going to have to rest on its own. And why didn't you do this at the beginning? Because they could have done it. So I know who I'm dealing with. And I'm on the phone with Mnuchin and with Meadows and with all of these people constantly, while they're there. But I also know when it's time to meet with people. I've done very well with deals, okay? That's what I do. And I know when it's time to meet. but I don't have to meet them. I am taking the high road. I'm taking the high road by not seeing them. That's the high road. Yeah.
That's President David.
And if I thought it made a difference or would make a difference, I'd do it in a minute. Yeah, go ahead.
David Jackson, USA Today. My question is about the Durham report, which you have talked about recently. You said, let's see what happens. Now, you've accused people of committing crimes against you during the Russian investigation.
Yeah, sure. They spied on my campaign, that's right.
My question
They spied on my campaign, and if they were Democrats, they would have been in jail 2 years ago. They would have been in jail, literally, if this side were the Democrat side, they would have been in jail 2 years ago for 50-year terms for treason and other things.
Excuse me, my question is, do you want the Justice Department to indict people over this?
I'm not going to say that. I have to see the report. I haven't seen it. I purposely, I don't know if that was a good thing, smart thing, I don't know. But nobody can complain about it. I have every right to have been very much involved. If this side, and maybe someday I'll get jail 2 years for 50-year terms for treason and other things.
My question is, do you want the Justice Department to indict people over this?
I'm not going to say that. I have to see the report. I haven't seen it. I purposely, I don't know if that was a good thing, smart thing, I don't know. But nobody can complain about it. I have every right to have been very much involved. And maybe someday I'll get involved in it. They spied on my campaign, and that includes Biden and Obama. They spied on my campaign trying to defeat me. They wrote up a fake dossier that has proven to be totally fake, written by Christopher Steele, paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, and they used that illegally in the FISA courts. If we did what they did, you would have many people in jail right now, and you have, other than the one agent that admitted his guilt, that he forged documents, we don't have that yet. But the report hasn't been issued yet. Let's see what happens. But let me just say something. President Obama and Biden, Sleepy Joe, he knew everything that was happening. They were spying on my campaign and they got caught. Now let's see what happens. But if this were the opposite way, people would have been jailed. They would have been in jail already for a period of at least, it would have started 2 years ago, and it would have been for 50 years for treason. Because you can't do that. That's never, nothing like that's ever happened before. Then they created, at tremendous expense, the money they paid is tremendous. I'm sure you know the money that was paid, millions of dollars. They created a fake dossier, proven to be now fake, everyone, and they used it in the FISA courts. That's a crime. So far, I haven't seen anybody have a problem, but the report hasn't been issued yet. Let's see what happens with the Durham report. But this started at Obama. And some people would say, and some people, well, but he was the president, like, let's leave him alone. If it were me, they wouldn't be leaving me alone, I can tell you. It's a totally double standard, and it's a disgrace. And if I were a Republican senator, and if I were a Republican congressman, and we have some great ones, but we have a lot of them that don't fight the way that the other side fights. We have much better policy. We have much better things going for us, like borders and walls and immigration and no sanctuary cities, and they have a lot of bad stuff going, but they're dirty fighters. And the dirtiest fight of all is the issuance of 80 million ballots, unrequested. They're not requested. They're just sending 80 million ballots all over the country, 80 million ballots, non-requested. I call them unsolicited ballots. That's going to be the dirtiest fight of all. People are going to get ballots. They're going to say, what am I doing? And then they're going to harvest. They're going to do all the things. And if you look at the last period of 6 months, take a look at the races where they've sent ballots out. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney, whose race should be redone because she won that race totally unfairly to her opponent. Her opponent did very well against her. That race should be rerun. But they declared her the winner because they heard I found out about it. But take a look at what's happened in New Jersey and in Virginia and different places. It's a disgrace. That'll be a beauty. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. If proven true, are you okay with Postmaster General DeJoy and the fact that he asked former employees at his private company to make donations to the GOP and then reimburse them? Are you okay with that?
I don't know too much about it. I read something this morning, but I don't. Other than that, I'd have to see it. He's a very respected man. He was approved very much by both parties, I guess. It was sort of an approval that took place by both parties. I don't know exactly what the story is. I'll certainly know within a short period of time. I just read it for the first time. I read it this morning, just like you did.
Would you support an investigation, sir?
Sure, sure.
And
I think let the investigations go, but he's a very respected man. Again, it was a bipartisan commission. Postmaster General is appointed by a bipartisan commission, and we'll see how that goes. But no, I think he's a very honest guy, but we'll see. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Go ahead,
follow up, please, if you don't mind. If it's proven to be a campaign finance scheme, do you think he should lose his job?
Yeah, if something can be proven that he did something wrong, always, you know.
Thank you.
Always. They've been looking at me for 4 years. They found nothing. 4 years. Think of it. For 4 years, from the day I came down the escalator, I've been under investigation by sleaze, and they found nothing. They found nothing. A friend of mine said, you have to be the most innocent, honorable man ever to hold the office of president. Think of it. They spent just Mueller alone. He spent, I guess the real number turned out to be $48 million, but whatever it was, many, many millions of dollars. They had 18 angry Democrats looking. They had FBI agents all over the place. They had and they have no collusion. Friends of mine have said, sophisticated friends have said, you've got to be the most innocent guy ever to hold this office. And there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. After Navalny poisoning, Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany is under pressure to cancel Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia to Germany. Would you support such a move? Do you think the project should be canceled?
Sure. Well, I've been supportive of that. I was the first one that brought it up. You never heard of Nord Stream 2 until Trump came along. When I came along, I said, wait a minute. We're protecting Germany from Russia, right? NATO. We're protecting Germany from Russia. Germany's paying Russia billions and billions of dollars to get their energy, and the real number is probably 60 to 70% ultimately of their energy is going to come from Russia. And I said this for years that nobody talks about it. One of the many things between sanctions and all of what we've done for Ukraine relative to what the past did. They used to send pillars and we sent tank busters. But I brought that up a long time ago. Russia's unhappy that I brought it up. But you never heard of Nord Stream 2. Nobody did until I got elected. And I said, why is Germany making a deal to give billions of dollars to Russia, and then we're protecting Germany from Russia? How does that work? And then on top of it, Germany is delinquent because they're only paying a little more than 1%, and they're supposed to be paying 2%, and even the 2% is low. But just remember, Trump, me, I got the countries of NATO to spend $130 billion going to $400 billion a year. Think of it, $400 billion a year more for NATO. And the purpose of NATO primarily is Europe protection against Russia. Now they can use it for other, I guess, and they have a little bit in the Middle East, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm the one that did that. So, but nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about Nord Stream 2. The answer is absolutely if they feel that something happens. But I don't know that Germany's in a position right now, because Germany's in a very weakened position energy-wise. They're closing all their plants. They're closing their nuclear. They're closing their coal. They're closing a lot of plants. And they have put themselves in a very bad position, frankly. Very, very bad position. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, can I follow up on Doug Mason's question? Have you asked John Kelly to publicly refute the Atlantic? And then can I ask something?
No, I have nothing against John. I have nothing against anybody. No, I was very heartened to see that a friend of his, because I know Zach is a friend of his and worked for him. I was very heartened to see that Zach Fuentes came out with the statement that he did, I guess, late last night, that it was not true.
Another question on this topic, Mr. President. Mr. President, what exactly is un-American about federal government training programs that are aimed at improving inclusivity?
Well, we're going to do a report. Yeah, I fired those people. They're all gone. And it was a disgrace, frankly. And we're going to give you a big report that's going to make you very happy. All right. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Darlene Superville, AP. You said a moment ago, they'll say anything. You were talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their comments about the vaccine. You have a...
No, they say worse. They say negative. they say negative. They're going to make the vaccine into a negative so that when we have it, and I spoke to the head of Pfizer, I spoke to the head of Johnson & Johnson, I spoke to the head of the greatest medical companies in the world. We're doing great. We're going to have it soon. Wait a minute. So now what they're saying is, oh, wow, this is bad news. President Trump is getting this vaccine in record time. By the way, if this were the Obama administration, you wouldn't have that vaccine for 3 years, and you probably wouldn't have it at all. So we're going to have a vaccine very soon, maybe even before a very special date. You know what date I'm talking about. But let me just tell you, wait. And what they're doing, because they think it is going fast, and if you talk to a lot of your sources, if you have sources, if you talk to your sources in the FDA, you'll see it's going very, very well. The numbers are looking unbelievably strong, unbelievably good. So now they're saying, wow, Trump's pulled this off. Okay, let's disparage the vaccine. That's so bad for this country. That's so bad for the world to even say that. And that's what they're saying it. But I watched Kamala's poll numbers drop from 15 to almost 0, and then drop out even before she ran in Iowa, because people didn't like her, and I understand why. She will never be president, although I have to be careful because Obama used to say that about me, so I have to be a little bit careful.
Right.
But you have to look at her a little bit more closely, because obviously Joe's not doing too well, so you're going to have to look at her a little bit too closely. But she's talking about disparaging a vaccine so that people don't think the achievement was a great achievement. I don't want the achievement for myself. I want something that's going to make people better, that people aren't going to get sick with. That includes therapeutics, where we're doing equally as well. Therapeutics. Go ahead.
Your point is that what they're saying is that they're saying it for political purposes.
Yes.
You have asserted repeatedly that a vaccine will be on the market before the election.
No, I didn't say they will. I said by the end of the year. No, but you're not quoting me accurately. I said that vaccines will be on the market before the end of the year, but they may even be on the market. They may even be developed and fully developed, tested, everything else. You know, we have 30,000 people in just one vaccine right now under test in very, very highly infected areas. So we're going to be able to get a good result one way or the other very soon. So I didn't say what you said. What I said is by the end of the year, but I think it could even be sooner than that. It could be during the month of October, actually. Could be before November.
Are you also saying that for political reasons?
No, I'm saying that because we want to save a lot of lives. With me, it's the faster the better. With somebody else, maybe they would say it politically, but I'm saying it in terms of this is what we need. We have to have, if we get the vaccine early, that's a great thing, whether it's politics or not. Now, do benefits inure if you're able to get something years ahead of schedule? I guess maybe they do. But the most important thing to me is saving lives. It's the most important thing. Yeah, go ahead in the back.
Hi. Just based on some of your recent tweets, sir, do you...
You sound so clear, as opposed to everybody else where they refuse.
Your tweets about the 1619 project, why do you object to that being taught in schools? And do you object to slavery itself being taught in schools?
Yeah, so no, I want everybody to know everything they can about our history. I'm not a believer in cancel culture, the good or the bad. If you don't study the bad, it could happen again. So I do want that subject studied very, very carefully and very accurately. But we grew up with a certain history, and now they're trying to change our history, revisionist history. That's why they want to take down our monuments. That's why they want to take down our statues. I saw something the other day which was absolutely horrendous. Washington Monument, they want to rename it. The D.C. committee, but the D.C. committee is all Democrats. Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson. I mean, we're talking about, this is the big stuff now. This is the big stuff. And they want to rename it. They want to redesignate it. They want to take some down. No, we don't do that. Never going to happen with me, I guarantee you that. Well, I want to thank you all, and I just want to wish you a very happy Labor Day, and we're having tremendous success, whether it's on the vaccines, whether it's on the pandemic, the plague that came in from China that China should have never let happen, because I will never feel the same about China. And I just want to, again, wish you a happy Labor Day. Thank you very much, everybody.